Wacky Wednesday, written by Dr. Seuss. It all began with that shoe on the wall. A shoe on a wall? It shouldn't be there at all. Then I looked up and I said, "Oh man." And that's how Wacky Wednesday began. Do you see 3 wacky things on this page? 2 are pretty easy to find, but do you see the third? The first wacky thing is the shoe on the wall. The second wacky thing is the shoe on the ceiling. And the third wacky thing is on the clock. Look closely. There is no number 10, but there's 2 9s. I looked out the window and I said, gee, more things were wacky. And I saw 3. Do you see all 3? First, the hose has been cut, but there's still water coming out of the sprinkler. Second, we have a worm chasing a bird. It's not supposed to happen like that. And in the tree, do you see the yellow? That's right, bananas growing in an apple tree. I went down the hall and I said, hey, 3 more things were wacky today? Look carefully. Can you see all 3? First of all, one of the pictures on the wall is upside down. Then we have a candy cane for a leg on the table, and the door has 2 doorknobs. How strange. I began to dress, and then I said, wow, 4 more things were wacky now. Do you see them all? Well, we still have the shoe on the wall and the shoe on the ceiling, but now there's 2 shoes on the ceiling. There's a shoe under the bed, and the clock. The numbers are there, but they're all in mixed up order. And there's the leg of the chair that seems to have a break in it. How strange. I looked in the kitchen and I said, by cracky, 5 more things are very wacky. Let's start by looking at the refrigerator where we have an insect holding up the refrigerator. Then as you look at the coffee cups, one is just hanging in mid-air without a hook holding it up. In the pot on the stove, there's an umbrella. Then at the table, there's a circle piece missing. And lastly, we have a mouse chasing a cat. I've never seen that. I was late for school. I started along, and I saw that 6 more things were wrong. Wow, more on each page? And these missing wacky things are getting harder and harder to find. Let's start by looking at the house on the left, the yellow house, where the steps are not underneath the door. On the red house, there's no door, and a tree coming out of the chimney. On the white house, it's missing a window. The window is just hanging off to the side. Then on the sidewalk, we see a lady in a yellow dress pushing a baby carriage, but it's not a baby inside. It's a tiger. And lastly, the red car, the driver is sitting in the back seat. And then 7 more. I'll give you a minute to look and see. Can you find all 7? Let's start by looking at the houses. The second white house is missing a wall. We have a green sun. And we have a power pole where half of the pole is missing. Then on the stop and go signs, usually green means go and red means stop. Then as you look at the red car, the driver has a shoe on his head, and the passenger in the back seat seems to be carrying the car. There's no tires in the back, and his feet are sticking out. And then we have 1 more shoe just in the middle of the road. What is it with all the shoes in this book? And the Sutherland sisters, they looked wacky too. They said, nothing is wacky around here, but you. The first girl in red is missing part of her neck, and the second one doesn't seem to have any legs. But look, I yelled, 8 things are wrong here at school. Nothing is wrong, they said. Don't be a fool. Okay, here we go. Let's start on the left-hand side of the page with the tree. There's a shoe hanging out of the bottom and a turtle at the top. On the for sale sign, for is spelled wrong. It should be F-O-R. It says for sale, F-U-R. There's 2 tigers in the window. And there's another misspelling on the name of the school. George Washington School should be spelled S-C-H-O-O-L. Then if we look at the flagpole, we have another shoe at the top. The flag is wrong. We should have a field of blue with stars and red and white stripes. And our flag is cut in half with an empty space right there in the middle. I ran into school. I yelled to Miss Bass, "Look, 9 things are wacky right here in your class." Do you see all 9 wacky things? Okay, let's count all 9. First of all, on the left-hand side, Miss Bass has roller skates on. Then there's a shoe under her desk leg. And then look at the alphabet. At the very end, it says WXZY instead of WXYZ. And then there's 3 girls in red at the chalkboard. The last one is standing on a little boy's head. That same boy doesn't have a chair under him. Behind him is another boy with a long white beard. Doesn't even look like a boy. It looks like an old man. Hanging on the wall is a picture that says George Washington, but that's not George Washington in the picture. That's Abraham Lincoln. Then we have a little boy in pink that's sitting the wrong direction. His desk is facing the wrong direction. And at the very bottom right-hand corner, we have a student that doesn't have a head. "Nothing is wacky here in my class. Get out. You're the wacky one. Out," said Miss Bass. On the left-hand side, we have a picture, again, not George Washington. They've spelled his name wrong. It's spelled Washington, T-O-N, and the picture has an M. The phone on Miss Bass's desk has a cord going through her plant, and then at the end of the cord is a mouse. I went out the school door. Things were worse than before. I couldn't believe it. 10 wacky things more? Look carefully. There's a lot to find. A lot of strange shoes again. Starting on the left-hand side, we have a little boy walking an alligator. The flag is still not correct with the stars and the stripes. And at the bottom of the flagpole, there's a shoe. In the background, we have buildings. And one building seems to be just floating. It's not connected to the ground. Then we have our statue in the pond where George Washington is facing the wrong direction. We have a park bench with a man in red sitting in the water. In front of the little pool is a small tree with a shoe at the bottom. And we have a lady dressed in purple pushing a baby in a baby carriage, but it's on top of the car. Also, on top of the car is a shoe, followed by a giraffe sticking up out of the manhole. How crazy. Okay, here we go. On the left-hand side, there's a tree with a chimney in the top. There's a lady in a red dress pushing a tree in a baby carriage. And then one of the trees is yellow. The for sale sign is spelled wrong again. Now it has the number 4, F-O-U-R. There's one door on the school that's turned sideways instead of being vertical. In the smoke coming out of the chimney, there's another shoe. And then if we look at the sidewalk and we start clear on the right-hand side, there's a lady dressed in white pushing a blue baby carriage with an old man in it. A lady dressed in pink pushing a white carriage with no wheels. A lady dressed in purple pushing a carriage that only has one wheel. A lady in black that's pushing a baby carriage that has a ski on the front. And then we have a lady in green who's pushing a white baby carriage with an alligator in it. Oh my goodness. Then 12 worse things. I got scared and I ran. I ran and knocked over Patrolman McGann. I probably didn't give you enough time to find these on your own, so let's go through quickly. On the left, in the back at the pink buildings, there's windows floating in the middle of the air. The airplane looks like it's about to run or land on the street. And then the car is going over the bridge. Part of the bridge is missing. If we look at the sidewalk, we see all kinds of crazy things going on with ladies and baby carriages. If you start on the right, we have the baby pushing the woman in the baby carriage. Then next to that, we have a lady in blue. The carriage is upside down. We have a couple pairs of shoes walking down the sidewalk with nobody in them. Then we have a tiger pushing a baby carriage. And then in the next baby carriage, we have the wheels on the lady and the shoes on the baby carriage. We have a pig that looks like he has 2 chicken legs, a cow without a head, and we have another lady carrying a baby carriage with, I don't know, 10, 20, 30 babies in it. That can't be right. I'm sorry, patrolman. That's all I could say. Don't be sorry, he smiled. It's that kind of day. But be glad, Wacky Wednesday will soon go away. Only 20 things more will be wacky, he said. Just find them, and then you can go back to bed. Oh my goodness, 20 things on one page? All right, here we go. Okay, let's start on the left next to our main character. The sidewalk seems to be rolled up like carpet. There's a man sitting on a bench, but he's got his head on the ground and feet in the air. Behind him is a bush with a wheel at the bottom. And then look at the road. The road on the left-hand side seems to be going up into the sky. On the road, we have an airplane. And then there's also a lady running down the street with a baby carriage. If we look behind the road, there's not one, but 2 suns. And then we have all kinds of things just floating in the air. There's a house floating. There's a car floating. A tree that's floating, and a chimney stack. Now on the right-hand side of the page, we have 3 houses stacked up on top of each other. There's a bush that has a shoe at the bottom. And then if we look at all the people on the sidewalk, we have one lady in pink that's pushing a baby, but there's no carriage, just a baby floating. There's a lady in red that's pushing a red carriage with no wheels. It looks like the babies are walking. There's the lady in the blue who seems to be sitting on a chair while pushing a baby carriage. And then the last lady pushing a carriage doesn't have a head. Then if we look at the pig, he doesn't have any feet. And in the little pond, it looks like the fish is fishing for a man. Usually it's a man fishing for fish. How strange. Wacky Wednesday was gone when I counted them all, and I even got rid of that shoe on the wall. I hope you enjoyed Wacky Wednesday. I sure hope you don't see any wacky shoes around our school today. Wow.